help. Every year we're getting further and further behind.
And they just say it's not important for them to fix it. We have more important things to do other than your house.
Here, up there. I just cleaned it up 2 weeks ago.
I need them to fix all this. It could have been prevented, all this. If they would have listened to me the first time.
You got 14 people living in there. So now all the code requirements for the air exchange systems don't mean a thing anymore.
The point is for the government to get out of delivering these services. If there is one answer, get out.
One of you got to help out Carolyn Bennett. Stop treating us like we're shadow.
While housing problems exist across Turtle Island, households in Canada's north are bursting at the seams and falling apart.
I'll show you my door. It's not fixed well. You can see the interior is coming off. And you can see a big crack on my floor. And it can move. When the house gets warm, the smell comes out here.
It's a reality that Josh Alahut lives with every day. He lives here in Hall Beach, Nunavut, with his 4 young children and spouse, Leslina. The tiny Inuit hamlet just inside the Arctic Circle has a big problem: housing, or a serious lack of it. And what is built here for the more than 400 residents badly needs repair.
If you go to the washroom, you can see my counter of my washroom. It can move, and my cupboard has been broken for about 4 years now.
APTN Investigates traveled thousands of kilometers to visit Alahut after he sent us photos of his kids' rashes. He believes they are caused by mold.
It's been quite a while that we've been having housing issues here, and it's never really being fixed or being seen, even if we complain. We have been trying to complain about our housing issues for quite a while before, but nobody seems to hear us. We started living here in this house without any air condition working and no fan in the washroom, and our oven's fan doesn't work ever since we got here. And my kids used to have rashes all over their body. We try to keep them clean and healthy. Yeah, it's been kind of hard time living here for their health, and never know if something can happen to them, like get asthma or something from this unhealthy place. They just say that they have things to do other than looking at my house. One time it shocked me, like when I say there's this part need to be fixed in my house, and then the answer I got from them is just that it's not it's not important for them to fix it because they're doing more important things than what's happening here, and they're not watching it, and they never even go here to see what's really going on. And then they just say, we don't have time to go there to fix that. We have more important things to do other than your house. So ever since that happened to me, I never complained, I never bothered to call them. Yeah.
Alohat and his family go out on the land to escape the small house.
This is the caribou hide we sleep on, out on the land. Keeps our family warm in our body. It reflects our warmness from here to our body. Like, it's very nice skin. Every time I'm visiting somewhere in Igloolik or out camping, my motivation starts to come back and my confidence starts to be great. I start to get energy. I'm okay for a few days, few weeks, and then I start to get low everything. Like, I've been paying bills and house rent to the unhealthy place that I live in for more than 4 years. And I would say to them, they're not looking after other houses, even a very small issue happening inside the house. If it's being fixed all the time and being worked on, we will have less issues with our family and our health, and it will be great for us to live in our own roof.
Rates of crowding obtained by APTN investigates from the federal government find homes in Nunavut are more overcrowded than anywhere else in the country. In the rest of Canada, just 3.4% of homes have more than one person per room. In Nunavut, almost 9 times that, 27.9%.
What we have here, Chris, is an ultrasonic cleaning machine. That's for cleaning electrical equipment and sort of thing for fire or mold.
Pushing a home beyond its designed occupancy limit is how you end up with a mold issue. Just ask Red Seal carpenter and mold remediation expert Alan Isfeld.
CMHC has a standard of occupancy for houses, and a 3-bedroom home is 4 people. 5-bedroom home is 5 people, and you could put 2 in each room, provided they were under 18 years of age. Then houses were designed based on occupancy for airflow and air exchange on fans and so forth. When you build a house as a 3-bedroom home, in the ideal world with the design of that home, it's supposed to occupy 4 people. Well, guess what? You got 14 people living in there. So now all of the code requirements for the air exchange systems don't mean a thing anymore. So you have a higher humidity within the home that the air systems can't keep up.
Housing adequacy is another jarring figure. 15.4% of homes need major repairs in the rest of Canada. In Nunavut, it's double. 1/3 of the housing stock is inadequate.
This I couldn't clean it up. I tried, but it stays like that.
Gordon Angulianic knows that too well. He's been trying to get the mold in his home fixed for years. He's been off work for more than 2 years due to a stroke.
Here, up there, I just cleaned it up 2 weeks ago. I was excited to get the house.
He's been on the list for 2 years. With his 5 kids and wife away, his 2-bedroom house feels empty.
My boys sleep in one room, and my kid and I sleep in our room.
But pack 7 people in here, and problems arise. especially in the winter.
Floor is always cold winter time. Like, I feel like every time I walk, I feel like walking on a steel floor. It's super cold. The cold goes all the way up to here. And upper part warm, super warm. My spouse got rashes, maybe from the mold, so many times. And nothing ever healed. Even she put cream, it's always the same.
Angulianic says he has complained to the housing authorities here.
They're way too busy. That's what they say. They're busy.
The Hall Beach Housing Association sent us this letter saying, in part, everyone that is involved in these projects are committed to doing the very best that we can for this community. The Housing Association also says there is a new mold remediation project that was launched in May 2019, and the 2 units we looked at are on a list for a new roof assembly. Minister Patrick Netzer oversees the Housing Authority for the territory. We asked him about the overcrowding in the communities outside of the capital.
I was in Nunavut recently, and sometimes they have 2-3 families living in a 3-bedroom house, and I couldn't sleep for one night when I saw that myself firsthand. And like I said, we need help from the federal government firsthand to address this huge issue before us. Now we've received $274.6 million. That's for the next 9 years, but we're grateful for that. But it doesn't address the real need.
Alohat and Angulianic do have a place to call home, but what about the homeless here? In the capital, Iqaluit, it is rampant. That's coming up next. Here in the capital city of Iqaluit, homelessness is on display.
Old abandoned boats like that, you can see people's belongings in them.
Kamara Kanuktakau is a local housing advocate.
There's quite a few personal belongings in there, lots of sleeping bags under that boat too. Elders are known to crawl out of that boat every day.
He took us to the shacks on Frobisher Bay that many Inuit call home.
Yeah. I've been down to inside my home.
Nushapuk Killabuk works full-time but says there's just not enough for Iqaluit's high rents.
When I buy fuel, then after that, and I buy a little bit of food for us, and after that, and I pay the bills after. That's not very much. That's not going anywhere right now.
He recalls a visit a few years back by then-Minister Carolyn Bennett to the shacks, but says nothing changed.
She came here to visit me and ask questions about housing crisis, but I never got anything received back, like any letter or anything like that. Like, I was wondering, what did she come here for? Like, is she going to help people around here or in the north, homeless people? I know there's lots of homeless people in this town.
Justin Trudeau, Carolyn Bennett, you should take a look at these shack fires.
Inuktakau places the blame squarely on the federal government. He has a very direct message for Bennett.
When are you going to help out Carolyn Bennett? Stop treating us like we're shadow. Start having a public meeting towards local people. Go over in front of the high school. Maybe talk to some local people who are suffering with starvation, poverty, homelessness. I think as an Indian Northern Affairs Minister, I think we should have the right to be asking you those kind of questions.
In the middle of a federal election, Bennett can't speak with us. But as with most Indigenous housing, funding is complicated here. Federal money flows to the Nunavut Housing Corporation. Minister Patrick Netzer is in charge.
We're in a real challenge here. I mean, we're really fighting for a solution here.
He says the territory currently needs 3,300 units to address the current crisis, at a cost of more than $1 billion.
Every year we're getting further and further behind.
Part of the problem is a lack of homeless services.
We're a very young territory, mind you. We're only 20 years old, and these problems are rising. And especially here in Iqaluit, where it's the capital of Nunavut, there's a lot of people coming from other parts of the territory, and often end up at the homeless shelter. So we have a big challenge here.
Looking ahead to the future, then, what possible fixes to the Indigenous housing system are in the works? The new federal department called Indigenous Services Canada says its focus is on getting out of the delivery of all services.
These houses that had been built here badly are turning into real desperate mold issues here.
Sylvia Olson is an academic who wrote a history of Indigenous housing programs as run by the federal government. And Olson has been in the room when this planned handover of services has been discussed by federal officials.
So, the most exciting thing that is on the table right now is that the federal government set up a whole ministry called ISC, which is Indigenous Services Canada, and the point is for the government to get out of delivering these services. And if there is one answer, get out.
Olson was a longtime housing manager for Sartlet First Nation in BC. She got the job after marrying into the community. She's often been bothered by the fact that First Nations have so little control over their housing and yet are blamed for its failures. Like First Nations in the South, Inuit are dependent on federal funding, but do much of the implementation themselves.
This whole history that I have looked into, one of the underpinnings of it all is that government has never believed that First Nations can manage themselves. It's shocking. So we might want to call that racism. You might want to. You might want to. Because if you have an underlying belief that these people, this group of people, this identifiable group of people, cannot manage themselves, you need to spend a few minutes thinking about that and then to, call it something else if you like. But so then what happens is all the way through this history that I've looked at, oh, housing's not working. So the go-to answer is, yeah, you see, they can't manage themselves.
As well as being cautiously hopeful about the change the new Indigenous Services Canada department might bring, Olson is training an army of reserve housing managers. Olson teaches a housing management certificate program at Vancouver Island University's Cowichan campus.
So it's a fulsome piece on everything from management to finance to construction to communications, and so now you go through, and it's a rigorous course, and it actually is much higher level than a certificate, and that's going to be kind of considered at some point, because what these students do is really comprehensive. These students come from all over the country, and they are actually learning the field of housing management, and it's exceptional, and they are doing work that is exceptional. And my take on it is, if we are going to make this change, everybody knows this, it's not rocket science. If you want to really make a change somewhere, it starts with education. So you educate people, and then actually you don't have to make the change. They just change it.
Rhonda Elliott works in housing management for Cowichan tribes and is taking Olson's program. And she finds connecting with the other housing managers in the course particularly helpful.
It helps you understand that you're not in it alone. You're doing it with other people who are doing the best they can. It's the experience in pulling it all together as one and saying, we're not alone doing this.
Elliott also believes in the benefit of engaging the community and leadership about the human heart of housing.
This past little while, and we had a youth writing contest asking 6 to 18-year-olds, what does housing mean to you, or what does our community mean to you? And we got some submissions, and one little girl who was 11 years old wrote what her house meant, and we showed a few people in the office, and they cried, like, you know. And I wanted the leaders and the workers of housing and, you know, Couch and Tribes to understand this is what a house means to our kids. This is what they want to see. This is what they believe our community should look like. So it was a small initiative, but it was in the right direction, and it's engaging our youth.
Back in Manitoba, Alan Isveld is looking to the future too. Most of Isveld's career has been in First Nations construction, and now he wants to be a force for change in the system.
I wrote an article in regards to the mold and roles and responsibilities that I sent off to Indian Affairs that talks about the crisis in the various communities. It talks about the lack of building codes.
Isveld has sent his article to Indigenous Services Minister Seamus O'Regan, but hasn't heard back yet. Ultimately, he'd like the government to invest in a national training program for First Nations people to properly construct and inspect their own homes. And that would likely fit with what Sylvia Olson would do about housing if she had her way.
I would acknowledge the past and make sure that I was not just resourcing where they're going in the future, that I would actually compensate the First Nations people for the incredible poverty that was wrought on reserves because of the housing. That's what I would do. That's what I would ask governments to do. And I think it's the only thing to do, the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do.
This will be the first time in our life that we've ever touched the soil that belongs to us.
What do they hope to gain by blocking all these other ones out that rightfully belong to the band?
They belong somewhere.